Good evening, Cheeseheads, and welcome to another edition of our World Cup show. I'm hosting tonight, Gibbo. Alongside me, got HG. HG, been watching the games today and yesterday?
Yes, as much as I could. Absolutely. I mean, it's the World Cup. It comes, I spoke to one of my daughter's friend's dad today outside the school, and he's Italian, and so he's a big football fan, but the World Cup's a bit weird for him right now. And I told him I was watching it, and he looked at me a bit weird. I was like, well, yeah, like it's once every 4 years. Like I can't not. Like I know there are reasons not to, but I've tried to watch as much as I can. Yeah, and I managed to get some of it at school today because we have a lot of Croatian kids, so they were desperate to know what was going on in their game at like 11 o'clock this morning for us.
Yeah.
So it was, it's good.
I mean, it's difficult to watch, isn't it, when you're at work? Like I've had BBC iPlayer or the ITV hub on, sort of had it next to where I've been working, and whenever the commentator gets a little bit animated, I sort of stand and have a look at it if I can. But yeah, so
I mean, I wish I could do that. You're lucky to have that option. Yeah. I wish I could do that.
Well, I think hopefully we'll have some people in the comments who might be able to help us if there's some little bits we haven't seen. But I mean, without wanting to sound like Julie Andrews, let's start at the very beginning. Very good place to start. Yesterday morning, Argentina versus Saudi Arabia. Probably first shock of the tournament, really.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like, again, I was obviously doing a double English lesson at the time, but I remember, like, just kind of, I asked the kids if they wanted to know the scores. I get my phone out and show it, and I was like, what? Like, it was 1-0. It was actually, at one time I checked it, it was 2-0. So I was like, how did it go from 2-0 to 2-1? That makes no sense. But yeah, it's an incredible shock. It's a massive result, and like we want to see that at World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I sort of the first half. If Argentina had 3 goals disallowed, I think, and they scored through the penalty. I think one of the offsides was literally like an arm.
It was weird, wasn't it? Because I think they showed the angle, and like the guy is like his feet are behind it. Basically, everything is behind the defender, apart from like his right shoulder or his left shoulder.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, hang on a second. Like I understand that you can score with that part, but how many goals are scored with your shoulder? Like I think that was pretty harsh.
And then you have to listen to old Peter Walton go on and just agree with everything. I'd rather watch the Waltons than listen to him, mate. He's an absolute buffoon. But yeah, he comes. So you watch that first half, and I thought, Argentina will come out and get another one, even if they're frustrated. You know what I mean? They'll be frustrated, but they'll get another one. But the second half just turned on its head. And the Saudis were fantastic, to be fair. The second goal was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? I mean, like again, like the first shot looked like it was going in before Romero headed it clear, and you thought that was it, and somehow to turn away from 3 defenders and manage to find the top corner.
Yeah,
like,
it's like a wonder goal.
Who scores that goal?
Yeah,
it's a brilliant goal against anyone. At any level. Like if that was me against a bunch of 13-year-olds at school, I'd be screaming about that goal, thinking that was great. So yeah, just to score 2 goals in 10 minutes and then say, right, we've got 35 minutes to defend.
Yeah.
Let's see what you can do. I think it's you want to see those games.
But HG, the defending, the Saudi defending, some of it was fantastic. I mean, like just the guy at the back was fantastic. I can't remember his name, but they were winning headers, they were winning tackles, they were throwing their bodies in the way of it. And there was one time where sort of like the keepers come out for it and claimed it and dropped it, and this got one of an Argentinian players had a shot, and there's just like as you'd expect from the way they've been defending, there was a Saudi defender on the line heading it away, and I was like, Newcastle are going to have a quality back 4 next year when they bring these Saudi players in. But massive result for the Saudis, and they've got a national holiday now, haven't they?
Yeah, I think today was a holiday for them. I mean, but can you imagine? I mean, Saudi Arabia is. I mean, like I remember their one big moment of World Cup history where they beat the Belgians. How many years ago is that? 28 years ago? A long time ago, where the guy scored, basically ran the entire length of the field and then scored. I mean, it's just it's great. It's Argentina, of course. Like we all want them to do well because we like Messi, but it's funny to watch a big team lose to a minnow.
Of course it is.
Everyone laughed at England when they lost to Iceland when it was at like Euro 2016. Like you like to see those, and so for Argentina, who probably thought this was the easy game in the group, to panic a little bit, it's wonderful.
But who have the Saudis got next? Because I
Oh,
mean, obviously going on, like obviously we won't. We'll just in a minute we'll talk about the other game. But I thought the Saudis looked decent, and the other game wasn't great. So if they can beat Poland or Mexico, then
they've got
they're
Poland
through,
next. They've
have
got
they?
Poland next. That's their big game. Like it felt like watching Spurs a little bit. Poor first half, concede lots of
Yeah.
chances,
Oof.
and
Yeah.
then turn it round in the second half. But yeah, they've got a really good chance. I mean, another point could help them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it might go to goal difference for them. But if they manage to get a point against Poland, they'll be in a really good spot.
Yeah, it's just like I think it's just a case, isn't it? You go in, you've had 3 goals against you disallowed. I mean, and to be fair, like I said, Argentina's goal was a penalty, and a bit debatable as well. But
Yeah.
you just think to yourself, they've probably gone in and thought, we're still in this. And the guy who's manager, I think we spoke about this before, seems to have managed at every World Cup I've ever watched. So he's got lots of experience. He's always there. Bloke, I was talking to a kid at work, and he sort of like looked at it. He said, "That bloke's who was he managing before?" I said, "Can't tell you off the top of my head, mate. I think he's managed near enough every team in the World Cup bar England."
And the funny thing is, like, I think before the World Cup, they had a press conference and they asked him, like, what do you kind of want to do with Saudi Arabia? And he was like, well, we're here to win games.
Yeah,
Like, doesn't matter who we're playing. We're here to win games. And I think he got laughed at a little bit because it's like, well, you've
yeah,
got Argentina first up. I mean, like maybe you'll win a dead rubber in game 3,
yeah,
but yeah, he was positive. And Saudi Arabia, they qualify for these things easily, right? So just because we don't know the players doesn't mean they're not good. And I
no.
think Argentina probably got a little bit. Maybe they underestimated them a lot, and they got a result that the Saudis frankly deserved.
Well, I've got to be honest. Law of averages as well. They won. Argentina hadn't lost in somewhat ridiculous, had they? 30 odd games,
30,
but
35
they
games,
were
I think.
they were good. Messi is obviously the GOAT. Greatest of all time, great player. We all obviously know Romero, who was fit enough to play in the first game. But I look at the rest of them, and I'm not massively. I'd like to see if England don't win. I would like to see Argentina win for
Yeah.
Messi. But then when you break it down and you look at them, they're not a fantastic team. Do you know what I mean? They're not like littered with absolute stars and quality players. They're pretty sort of like okay, really, aren't they?
Like if you compare them to old Argentina sides, like the
Yeah,
one from 4 years ago, this side is much better.
yeah,
That
yeah.
Argentina team doesn't have really any weaknesses, and even the goalkeeper. I mean, the Villa guy, like he's no slouch.
No, he's a good
But
keeper, to
you're
be
right.
fair.
I think sometimes it's about getting the right balance. And I saw a couple of tweets after the game suggesting that Argentina really missed Lo Celso because he usually starts for
Yeah,
them, usually plays, and like as Spurs fans, you might find that a bit weird to kind of get your head
yeah,
around. But if they're used to playing with certain players, bringing someone else in who can do similar things. I think it was Papu Gomez who came in for him. They played a
yeah,
slightly different formation. They usually go 4-3-3, and against the Saudis they went more 4-2-3-1. But those slight changes can really hurt teams. So I do think Argentina will find a way to get it right.
yeah, yes, yeah,
But Argentina teams of old will swap a few. Like if they start the next game with 3 or 4 changes, I'll worry a little bit more than if they just went out with the same lot and said, right, no, like that was a fluke. That won't happen again. We know how good you are. Off you go. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do because
yeah,
again they're a bit lucky with the fact that the other result was a draw in the group, so they're not completely out of it or not really
yeah.
behind the 8 ball. But yeah, you don't want to lose your first game, and
And
pressure's on now.
pressure's on, but let's be honest. If you watch the Poland Mexico game, I think Mexico looked quite energetic. Poland were their sort of usual dour selves, but obviously had Lewandowski. Lewandowski had a penalty, missed it. It was a crap penalty, but you know probably they're Argentina are going to have enough to get through, aren't they? And if like you said, if Saudi Arabia can pick themselves another point, they're in a good position as well, aren't they? In that group,
It's
then.
like the first round of fixtures is always important, but
Mm,
now, like now that Mexico and Poland will think, well, okay, we've got a point, that's a decent start, and Mexico, yeah, it's going to be like they're probably still going to be thinking, if we get something from Argentina, then we've got the easy game left,
yeah,
right? Whereas Poland are now thinking, right, we've got to play the easy team that's just beat. Like it's crazy that they're all going to be thinking that, even though they'll have seen evidence to provide otherwise. But I think if anything, over the last couple of days, if you get a penalty at a World Cup, you can't afford to miss
No.
it. And Lewandowski, like before he took the penalty, they brought up the little graphic showing that all his penalties for Poland and which ones had been saved or missed or whatever. And the two that had been missed were on the same side. So I was just like if you'd imagine that the keeper's seen that and thought, like, he tends to go this way, I'll take my chances. And it was a poor penalty. So like Poland, they missed an opportunity. Mexico will probably feel that they maybe got away with it, even though they played quite well. But yeah, for Argentina, all eyes on them. I think their game is on Saturday, and that will be a big game.
Really a must-win game now, isn't it, for them? You know, they've got to win now, I think, really.
Well, they definitely can't lose. I mean, it'd be weird if they get away with a draw. I mean, like if they lost this one, then the other game was a draw, they could still probably qualify.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you can't start a World Cup with 2 losses and expect to go through. So Argentina will need to get 3 points, and if they do that, then they'll probably calm down themselves.
Yeah, and we probably think they will, don't we? I think they probably will now. You know, I think that game, no matter how good the Saudis were, it was like, you know, it was an anomaly, wasn't it? I think they'll go on to win the next game.
Yeah, I mean, like we all thought they'd beat Saudi. That's the crazy thing. Like, none of us even considered that they would lose to Saudi Arabia. And so Saturday night, Argentina have Mexico, and they have the advantage of playing second. Like, the Poland game is before them, so they'll know what's going on. But, you know, Argentina and Mexico, like, they're not near neighbors, but they share obviously a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a huge game, probably the first big game of the second round of matches.
Yeah, and I think, like we've talked about the penalty miss, I think we've talked enough about Mexico, Poland. It wasn't a great game.
Wasn't a great game.
Then, obviously, after that, talking about not great games, Denmark, Tunisia, same again. You know, Denmark were sort of like my dark horses for it, and I fancied them to beat Tunisia, but it's really pretty much a nothing game. Do you know what I mean? It was.
I need matches over my eyes just to even talk about it. It was really, really bad.
Really dull, wasn't it?
I think Denmark fell into the trap that England didn't fall in, and they played a back 3 against a side that, well, you know, not terrible, but one of the weaker sides. And so I think maybe after an hour they changed it and took one of the centre backs off and tried to be a bit more attacking. But by then, you know, they've missed a lot of the game. So Denmark's got a really good team, and we know from 18 months ago that they, you know, on their day they can beat anyone. But not beating Tunisia, they won't be nervous per se, but it's not the start they would have expected. And so their game against France again is also on Saturday. Another big game.
So obviously, with that being a stink fest, we'll move on to France, Australia in that group, and obviously France sort of like a little bit of a scare. Australia scoring first, really good goal to be fair to Australia, but France looked good after that, didn't they? Like, you know, I don't know whether it's Australia were just poor or France were really good, or something somewhere in the middle. But for me, France looked a decent outfit.
It's awkward, right? Because we've seen a fair few games now, and some bigger teams have struggled, and some teams like England and France have won quite convincingly. And we'll talk about Spain later. But these bigger teams that have won convincingly, yet you still worry. Like, I know that Saudi Arabia got a result, and I know that other teams are getting results, but like, I can't look at that Australia team and think, you know, 6 or 7 of them play in the Scottish League. No offense to Scotland. But, you know, Australia teams of old, they played in the Premier League, they played in Italy, they played all over Europe. It wasn't in the leagues that they're currently playing in. So that the Australian goal was good, but it was very much the outlier of the performance. And in France, granted, they got 4 in the end, probably could have been more, but I think it says more about Australia than it does about France. We know how good France can be. It's just can they do it in the bigger games?
Yeah, and we've got a lot of people from Oz involved in the cheese room, haven't we, HG? So I would have liked to have seen them get a result for them. But, you know, the guys who we were talking to didn't really fancy it much, did we? And obviously, in the end...
Well, I mean, I remember I was watching, I don't know if anyone watches Last Week Tonight, the John Oliver show in America. They did a thing on FIFA. And right at the beginning of the show this week, they showed like the reaction when Australia qualified. Right, and Australia qualified by beating like the 4th or 5th best South American team on penalties over 2 legs.
Yeah.
Like they, if they weren't the worst qualifier, they're not far off it. So
Yeah.
like they were so happy to be there. It's a cliche. Like
Oh, yeah,
Australia
yeah.
as being a decent side with with decent players, but this time around they were pretty fortunate. And yeah, I mean, again, 4-1 losing to France, they would have expected it. I think losing by 3 hurts them a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, with Denmark, Tunisia drawing, Australia will think, okay, well, if the French beat the Danes, and we go out and beat Tunisia, then again, it'll be last game against the Danish, which I think for Australians would have been something they would have taken at the start of it. They knew they would lose to France. They get something against Tunisia, and then the Danish game is a one-off game to see if they can go through.
Yeah, I mean, the cliche, they just seemed happy to be there. I'll see if we can drop another cliche in a bit later. But yeah, that's one of the favourites, isn't it? Yeah. JP, look, 25 minutes of heaven. Yeah.
I mean, I like Australia. Like I'm not being English about it.
No. Yeah.
It's just that they're not a great side. And I think most Australians would recognise that. They've got a couple of good players. I've always liked Lecky, but he's one of the older ones now. It's just a bad cycle for them.
Yeah, I mean, Giroud, you can't knock Giroud, can you? I mean, how old is he now? Like,
36 maybe.
Yeah. And there was a point where Spurs were strongly rumoured with him because he wanted to leave Chelsea. And we were, and a lot of fans were up in arms that he's nowhere near good enough for Spurs or whatever. And at the time, I was thinking, if he can come in and be a backup to Harry Kane, or and take some minutes from him, even at that age, I think he'll be a decent signing. But obviously, people were dead against it, and I think he's gone on to prove that he is a decent footballer.
So there's a stat that I completely forgot about with Giroud, is that when France won the World Cup last time around, he was their main striker in that tournament.
Yeah,
and he didn't have a shot in the entire tournament. Not one shot. Like, forget goals, he didn't even have a shot. And so, like the Dutch commentary were talking about this, 600 odd minutes without a shot in the World Cup, and I'm like, who cares? They won. Right?
Yeah.
They won the whole thing. No one cares about who shot the most. They care. So Giroud is obviously a very good player, and it's about intelligence. Like, if you can play at the highest level at that age, it's not a physical thing anymore. But maybe for Giroud, it never was. It was always a technique, making sure that when the chances come, he puts them away. Yeah. And the French, they could probably play Mbappe as the main striker, but they clearly don't want to. No. And I think Mbappe likes being a bit, kind of off to the left. So there'll be a dangerous side. I still think the midfield isn't great, and they lost, obviously, Hernandez to a cruciate injury. So they can be got at, but if you give Mbappe and Giroud a chance, they will punish you.
I like the look of that Chouameni who played in the middle of midfield. I know he's a young lad. I like the look of him. But yeah, I mean, when we look at that now, leaves the group. France are obviously top. You'd probably say, and I don't want to upset our viewers over in Australia, but it'll probably be now out of Denmark and Tunisia, whoever beats, Australia by the more goals. Do you get what I mean, HG? Because
possibly. Yeah. I mean, this is it. The Australians will realise that the goal difference is bad, but they'll know that the other teams have to play France, which they've already done. Yeah. The Tunisia-Australia game is the first game on Saturday.
Yeah.
Again, it will be one of those games. If that finishes a draw, Denmark will be super happy. Because they'll know that even if they lose to the French, they're not out of it at all. But if there's a winner in that game, then the France-Denmark game becomes a much bigger event. So again, like Australia and Tunisia, they're not out of it at all. It's even after losing to the French, the Australians they might be very fluky, but they can still get through somehow.
Yeah. So we'll move on. First game this morning, 10 a.m. our time, Morocco-Croatia. Another 0-0 draw.
I know. Oh my gosh.
I saw some earlier. Perisic played 90 minutes out of the 98 and got brought off. So, that's the only. I'll tell you what, I had my phone ready to watch it, and I was getting stuck into something, and I didn't even realise till completely forgot about it, and I think I was justified because everyone else said it was a load of old crap. So,
the biggest thing I can take away from that Morocco-Croatia game is that second place in that group is up for grabs. Right?
Yeah,
we'll talk about, obviously, the Canadians lost late tonight, but Canada played much better than either Morocco or Croatia did.
Yeah,
and if they can take chances and not miss penalties, that second spot. You'd think Belgium will win it now because they've won at
Yeah.
least one game. They should
Yes.
get enough to stay top. But yeah, it's that's a pretty weak group when you think of it now.
So what we'll do is, because that's fresh in the memory, let's go to the Belgium Canada game. I thought it was a really good game. I thought Canada were really good. They got into some really good positions, but they just lacked that sort of real bit of quality right at the end of the move or whatever. But they were great to watch, full of energy, getting around the pitch, and battling. That they looked in really good shape, didn't they, HG?
We have a few Canadians that come on the show, and certainly one of them, Cody, who's not been on too much, but he follows them a lot. He's Canadian, he cares. He said that's the best he's ever seen them play, and it's like their strength is attacking, and the coach went for it and played a lot of them, and it was a 3-4-3, but the centre backs were bombing forward. They only really kept the old centre back behind, and you're right, like. They have good strikers, but the chances didn't fall to the better ones.
No.
Right? So obviously the penalty miss, that I'm not sure Alphonso Davies should have taken it. I'd have expected David to take it myself.
Yeah.
Because David is a quality striker. I just thought that Alphonso Davies, like he's a fantastic player.
He's like their best player, probably Alphonso Davies, isn't he? But not their best striker, if you get what I mean.
Quite. Watching Canada reminded me of watching Austria about 10 years ago when Alaba was coming through and they had this world-class player suddenly and they didn't know where to put him on the pitch. And they tried him in midfield so he would affect the game more. They tried him left back because that was the problem position. And it felt weird for them that, we've got this guy who plays left back for Bayern. But Austria, do we want to put him in defence? Like we need to get him more involved. And it felt like first half, Canada kind of decided that Alphonso Davies should play down the left, and it worked much better for them. And maybe in the second half, he tried to get a bit more involved and was playing more centrally, and they struggled. Obviously, the Belgians improved in the second half too, but you just think that Canada, in that first half, they should have scored the penalty. They could have had maybe one or two more penalties.
I thought they should have had another 2 penalties. And I was very surprised. The one of them, I think it was what would have been their third penalty. Me and Zach were watching it, and I was just like, they're going to VAR, so he's going to go and look at this now, and it'll be a penalty. And they never. And I'm finding some of I found that bizarre because I thought the one before was, they didn't really look at it, but I thought, I think they should have had 2 penalties, but the ref weren't having a bar of it.
I think we talked about it on Monday. Like everybody knows that if you get sent to go and look at the monitor, that means that it needs to be changed. Whatever the decision was, it needs to be changed. And maybe they just thought. I mean, again, it's wrong, right? The guy gets stood on. Maybe you can say he doesn't mean to be stood on, and that's part of it too. It shouldn't matter, right? But he was fouled, whether it was intentional or not. It's a weird. I'm not surprised they didn't go to it. But they probably should have. Again, and Canada played so well that they deserved maybe not to be ahead, but certainly not to be behind after that first half. Because we have to remember, Belgium had numerous chances on the break. De Bruyne had the ball, and you thought, this is it, right? The goal's going to come. And De Bruyne would make the wrong choice, like 2 or 3 times in that first half alone. There was one time he could have played Tielemans in, and he went down the left to Hazard. You just wonder. I wondered when I watched that. I thought, does he not want to pass to Tielemans? Because it was so obvious that was the side to go to. I couldn't believe that he didn't do it. So, like the Canadians, obviously are a bit, high risk, high reward. See what happens, and that's got to be applauded because it was a great first half. Was the best first half of the tournament for me. Just end to end stuff. I loved it.
Well, look, I like because obviously, as I've said before, the fact that the game was sort of free flowing football, really, wasn't it? And it was end to end stuff. Now, I don't want to see when it's Spurs. I don't want to see end to end stuff. I just want to see us playing that type of football. But that's what was great about it. And then just before he scored, I was like, oh, this Batshuayi is awful. He's an awful, awful footballer. I saw him have a shot or something where he skied it, and I'm just like, God, how's this bloke getting this team? And then, to be fair, long ball. Was it Toby who pinged that ball?
Yeah, it was Toby. Yeah.
Great ping from a great player. And obviously, Batshuayi, I thought that was a decent finish, to be fair.
It was. I mean, again, like I tend to rate Batshuayi more than most. I don't know why. I just look at his goal scoring record. Like, I know that at Chelsea he barely played for them, but he went to Dortmund and scored quite a lot, and he went to Valencia, and he's been around Europe on loan from Chelsea most of his career, it seems. But I've always felt that there was something there, and that if you play kind of like Pavlyuchenko, where maybe he doesn't do much during the game, but if you give him half a chance, he might find the net.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Lukaku was injured. I don't know why he didn't
Yeah,
play.
well, he was
He must
sat
have been
up in
injured.
the stands, wasn't he?
Oh,
He must
okay.
be
Well, there you
injured.
go. All right.
Yeah.
So, but Batshuayi is a second. I mean, because they don't have Origi. Origi's not in the squad.
No.
So Batshuayi is clearly the second best choice, and I still think it's a good. Belgium's attack is not the problem. Like
No.
we could sit here and talk about whether Trossard should start over Hazard.
Yeah, I was going to say,
he
I
should.
thought, yeah.
Because I think like Hazard, again, we know how good he was, but I don't know too many players that have had the drop off he did. As soon as he left Chelsea, he became an afterthought. Like, and not just at Real, like in general, everyone forgot he even existed. And so, like, Trossard probably deserved to start. And there's a couple of changes that Belgium could make. They obviously made some at half time, which made them much more solid. Carrasco is not a wing back, certainly not on the left hand side. And so when they switched Castagna over there and brought on Monier, that made them stronger.
Yeah.
Toby is still imperious as far as I'm concerned. He was a brilliant, like he was in the right place at the right time all the time. And he's got, Jan on one side, which he's used to playing with, but Dendonker's a defender, not really.
Yeah.
And so like I get that they have Fuss, the guy at Leicester. They've got a couple of other young centre backs that could play that third role. So I'm surprised that Dendonker is there. But I guess it's about the ability to bring the ball out. And as a midfielder, Dendonker's half decent at it. But but Belgium are one of those sides that they'll feel probably quite lucky that they won. But they'll know that I think the biggest result for Belgium, as weird as this sounds, is the fact that if they win their group, they have to play the second team in Group E, which is the Spain and Germany group.
Yeah.
And the Germans. So shall we go on to Germany?
Yeah, so you can never write off the Germans. I thought, before the tournament.
Yes, we can.
There's a second
I want to write them
cliche.
off right now.
Yeah, but obviously, talking now, I think, but to be fair, HG, you called Japan to get a decent result, didn't you, against to get a decent result against Germany? Ashraf says here, would you take any of the Japanese players? Thought they were super fit and hardworking. Thought they were excellent. Technically, they are, we've had in our patron chat, Pat Chan said about Tomiyasu, he's got, and obviously I don't know whether it's a bit of an on-running joke now or whether he's deadly serious all the time about it. But, there's a lot of players in that team and you look at them and you think, I don't know why more clubs in England don't take chances on them. Like there's, was the guy at, Frankfurt, is he Japanese or is he Korean?
Kamada. Yeah, he played.
Yeah. And I thought they were excellent.
I tell you what I think it is. The reason why that they tend to go to Germany rather than to England, and this is probably going to be really stereotypical and sad, is that English football still kind of thinks that pace and power and presence are more important than technique. Right, there's a Japanese player, another one at Frankfurt, who's 38, 39, and has been playing in Germany for 15 years, and he's not in the squad, but still, like, they are very good technically. And I think that the Japanese team, I mean, obviously, we saw they scored 2 late goals, but they brought on players. They brought on Tomiyasu at half-time. To me, Tomiyasu, I know he's a gooner, but he needs to start. He is their best defender. I'm amazed that he doesn't play over Yoshida because I don't rate Yoshida at all. No. But Tomiyasu came on at half-time. They brought on the guy from Brighton. They brought on another couple of players, who play in Germany at various levels. And they turned it around. And I think it was like they went for experience in the first half and then said, right, we're going to change it and give it a go. And in the second half, they were much better. And the Germans, perhaps a bit unfortunate not to go 2-0 up when Gundogan hit the post. But the 2 Japanese goals were really well taken. And I don't think anyone can say they didn't deserve to win it in the end.
I mean, they brought on Minamino as well, didn't they? But you say about pace and power. I think pace-wise, they've got that in abundance. They do look. They are a pacey side, so physicality. But I think that's coming out of the Premier League a little bit more, isn't it?
You would hope that the Premier League is, but again, who's going to spend money and say, right, like Kamada, for example, like he went to Frankfurt, not many people knew much about him, but he's very much like Modric. Like he's not the biggest player, He likes to have time on the ball, but up here,
Yeah.
he's really quick of thought. And like having pace is great as long as you know how to use it. And the thing with the Japanese players is that a lot of them do.
Yeah.
They know when to make the pass. They know when to do these things. And so it's surprising. Like even from a marketing perspective, you'd think that one of the English teams would be like, "Hey, if we get a Japanese player over, maybe we can do something." Especially if it's one of the big ones. Like, I mean, talking about Kamada still, I don't think he's got much left on his Frankfurt contract. And so there may well be one team who says, you know what, this is the time. Because Minamino went to Liverpool and he never really stuck. But I think Kamada is better than Minamino. I mean, I don't think it's even close.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Tomiyasu being at Arsenal is playing maybe half the games depending on injuries. But he's a reliable member of a squad that is doing, sadly, quite well.
Yeah.
Like the Japanese team, again, like as James says here, because we don't watch the qualifiers, we just assume that it's the same teams every time, and they come through because they have easy games, and like you never see anyone new qualify from Asia. It's always the same names, and you forget how good they are because that Japanese side, again, they were quite fortunate to win the game, but they took their chances, and the Germans didn't. And at any level, that will be the difference.
Yeah, and the guy, I think the guy from Brighton, whenever I've watched, I think they've got high hopes for him because whenever I've seen him play, I think he's looked really good. So obviously, go on. Sorry, HD, carry on.
No. It's just if you have lots of players who are similar like that, then it tends to work better, right? Like I mean, I think with England, you look at Sancho. Like Sancho at Dortmund was a star. I mean, like a superstar.
Yeah.
Goes to Man United, and there aren't any other players who play in the same way to him, and he looks awful. And he's done better this season for Ten Hag, but still, like he's out of the England squad mostly because he doesn't have any players who play in a similar way. The Japanese players do, and again, they've been together for a long time. They have that, the country comes first mentality, which in some cases in the past England hasn't.
Yeah,
and so it's good to see them. Like they got a result, and again, they will know. I'll check to see who their next game is against. The Japanese have Costa Rica Sunday morning. They win that game, they're through.
Yeah, and obviously, by the same token, which is completely hilarious, Germany have got Spain, and they've got to win, haven't they? Now, HG, because I think Japan will beat Costa Rica. Costa Rica were poor today, and like we were talking about, if you look at it like that, I think the Japanese will win. Germany have got to win. I mean. Give me your opinion on. You watch a lot of German football, HG. So let's have it, both barrels about the German national team.
The German squad has a lot of very good players. I mean, like very, very good players.
Yeah.
But I think I said it in the preview show that there are positions where you look at it and think, oh, is that really the best you've got? Like their right back today was Niklas Süle, who's about 6'5", built like a boxer, looks like a boxer. I was
going to say, he's built like me.
He's a centre half, right?
Yeah.
And so you start to think maybe will they do the old Jose Mourinho trick of playing three centre backs, and that could work. Schlotterbeck's very left-footed, and Rudiger like three. But yeah, they struggle. They had a lot of chances coming from the left-hand side because obviously the left back was allowed to go much further forward, but like. Gnabry didn't really get involved, and he started the game. They don't have a main striker. Like Havertz is the false nine. They do have a guy in the squad who scored some goals in the Bundesliga this season called Niklas Füllkrug.
I think they brought him on.
They brought him on.
I think they did.
He is, to put it nicely, a bit of a lug. 6 foot something, puts himself about, but that. Yeah, he may be better than that, but I don't think I'm selling him too short.
No.
They struggle in certain areas, and like Muller plays all the time, but maybe he shouldn't. Goretzka can't seem to stay fit, so they do have really good players, but again, it's finding the right balance. And if you can't do it, it doesn't matter how good you are, because the best team usually wins these things, not the best players.
What did you think? What do you think to the guy, the lad who used to play for? Is it Manicia? Did he play for the England youth team?
Oh, Musiala.
Yeah.
Musiala, I think, was born in Germany but grew up in England.
Yeah.
And was at Chelsea for a long time before going back. And when he decided to represent Germany instead of England, at the time, I certainly felt, well, I would make that choice. Germany have made semi-finals of the World Cup for the last 5 times.
Yeah.
So you expect them to be at a decent level always.
Yeah.
And yet now you look at it and you think, oh, we could really use him. And that German side, like they're missing a striker. Like I know that Werner's injured, but they don't really have one, and that's. I mean, Royce being out doesn't help them either. But that German side, there's a couple of major issues. And like I was talking to my friend during the game, and he said to me before half time, he said, "This game has like Argentina, Saudi Arabia vibes to it, right? Like we're doing well,
Yeah.
but I'm not confident." And he said to me, like maybe even with half an hour to go, he said the same thing, and I was like, "Well, like I'll do you a deal." Right, like because obviously as an Englishman, like I like
Yeah.
German football and I like Germany and all the rest of it,
Yeah.
but I don't want them to win the World Cup. I'd like to see them go home in disgrace,
Yeah. Of course.
as much as I like them. And so I said, like, can I hope that Japanese win? And he's like, hey, we will do a deal. Japan can win as long as Brazil don't win the whole thing. So now that one has come true, I guess we can say that Brazil won't win the World Cup because the deal has been made.
Well, I mean, I think Germany could go home because they've got Spain next, and Spain looked good, didn't they? I mean, Costa Rica. It's another one of those. Was Spain really good? Was Costa Rica really bad? Was it somewhere in the middle? But Spain looked good, didn't they? I thought they looked really good.
If you say everyone says about Spain they don't have a striker, right? And they go and score 7 goals from 6 different players.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Costa Rica aren't the best side. However, for a first game, that was a pretty impressive first game. I know the Germans will be a much more difficult game, and the Germans will somehow do everything to. I think the Germans will get a result. I don't think they'll lose to Spain. I think they'll manage to get something from it. But that Spanish side, like again, that if they win the group, they have to play the second team in Belgium's group, which looks like it could be a crapshoot. It could be anyone: Canada, Morocco, or Croatia.
Yeah.
So that there'll be Spanish fans out there thinking like this group that looked really difficult, we're well on our way now. So maybe they'll look a bit further. But the Spain side is weird because we know what they can do. I don't rate Ferran Torres, but he scored a couple. So like you do still think that maybe somewhere they're going to go wrong. But Olmo is a quality player.
Yeah,
definitely. Pedri and Gavi. I mean,
superb.
for what they're like 18 and 19, it's insane how good they are. So if they can keep the ball, then there'll be a danger. But yeah, 7-0 is almost harsh, really. Like they could have stopped at 4. They didn't need to get
no. Go for it, mate. That's what I want to see. I want to see teams punish other teams. I love that. Okay. I wanted Spurs to smash. Obviously, I got some stick in the Patreon group. I wanted Spurs to smash Marine by as many goals as they could get. That's what they're there for. Take them to the cleaners. But the one I love, I couldn't believe he was starting centre back, was the guy from City. Rodri. I mean, we bought him the same time as they bought him the same time as we bought Ndombele. And I was thinking, he's got, Ndombele, which should be better than this guy. But he's a lovely footballer. He is. Watching him play. He's dropped into the back, but the way he knocks the ball around, what a great player. But I found that strange that he was starting at centre back. They had Pau Torres on the bench. I know Laporte's left-footed as well, but
I think it's all to do with opponent, right?
Yeah.
Like Spain, they knew against Costa Rica they would have a lot of the ball. Against most teams, they probably will, and so it's like that Barcelona, the great Barcelona played Mascherano at centre back, who was never really a centre back.
No,
I think they feel they can do it. Like they stick Busquets in midfield. They can have Rodri behind, and Laporte is almost the centre back. He's the one who has to kind of clear up. But yeah, it makes sense when they know that they're going to have lots of the ball. You don't need the kind of like the defender's defender who puts his head on everything because he just won't be needed. So yeah, like Spain looks great. I mean, there is no doubt about that. It looked great, and the 7-0 hurts Costa Rica very much because they now know they need victories. Draws won't help them. But yeah, every World Cup has a weird result, and I feel like, especially like almost in modern World Cups, it's happening even more and more. That the so-called minnows do get a thrashing every now and again, and that Costa Rica side has aged now.
Yeah,
right. Like
was Brian
Campbell's
Ruiz
over 30.
Playing? Yeah,
I think he came on as a sub.
Yeah,
and he must be like 37 now. I mean,
gotta be.
They do well to qualify. It's kind of like Australia. Like they did well to qualify. But maybe we won't see them in 4 years' time.
No, but I mean, I mean they as well. Spain had that horrible little shit, didn't they? Playing fullback. I mean, he's still going older.
You don't
Azpilicueta.
like Azpilicueta? I like,
He's a
I
great
know he's a
footballer.
little.
Brilliant footballer, mate. Brilliant
Yeah,
servant
yeah.
to Chelsea
You want
and
him
for
on your
Spain.
side. I
Yeah.
think Azpilicueta is one of those underrated footballers that just
fantastic. But
gets the job done however he needs to.
Yeah, horrible bloke. So we'll see. Asensio, yeah. I did. There's been talk about him to Spurs before, hasn't there? Asensio, that
Yeah.
came. That was a year or so ago.
I think it's this idea that he's left-footed and people might see him as a Kulusevski, not clone because they're very different players, but he's an intelligent footballer, and it looks like Real Madrid don't really want to keep him, so he'll go somewhere. And I don't think any club can have too many of those. But it will be interesting to see. Yeah, are Spurs really a destination for him? I'm not sure. I think he might go to Italy, but he's certainly someone that we should be looking at.
Definitely,
because like Brian Hill is almost certainly out. Lucas, I think, even came out and quoted to say that he's thinking he's off in the summer.
Yeah.
So Asensio, again, he'll be mid-20s. I've seen worse deals, but it will be one of those kind of Paratici, like get them on a free and pay them obscene amounts of money, which he used to do at Juventus. I'm not sure that would fly at Spurs, but
where
definitely
does
some
he
good
play?
players in this World Cup.
Is he number 10, or
Asensio?
would he play in the? Would he play in number 10, or would he play in the Kulusevski role?
He's not like Kulusevski, but I think he can play anywhere along that kind of attacking midfield because he's very left-footed, Asensio.
Yeah.
What his best position is, I think that's maybe the reason that Real Madrid don't really know what to do with him. They've got lots of kind of right-footed left wingers that can cut in, whether it's Vinicius Junior or even Hazard, right, can do that.
Yeah.
But I think that Asensio hasn't really found a spot. If he's going to play for Spurs, to me, his best position would be that Kulusevski thing in the system that Conte uses. But I'm not really sure that would suit him either. So it's a question of like, do you want people who can really play the system you're focusing on? Or do you just want to have really good players and be able to change things up depending on the game?
I think Spurs have got somebody earmarked for that position, and I don't think he's at the World Cup. I think I've got a feeling that, obviously there's a lot of paper talking stuff, but I think Malinovskyi is the guy who they've got earmarked for that position. Personally,
because Conte and Paratici have such a history with Italian football, it does strike me as being that if we're going to look anywhere, like we got Udogi from Italian football without any of us really knowing who he was, you'd have to think that we're going to look that way. But who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. So tomorrow's game's NHG, Switzerland, Cameroon, 10 o'clock in the morning, UK time. Is that one you'll be upset if you can't watch?
Not really, although I'm definitely cheering on Cameroon after what Granit Xhaka said today.
What's he been on about today? Who's he been?
I mean, they asked him all to do with the armbands and stuff, and his response was very neutral, very Swiss. Which I guess that's fine if it's his opinion, but I didn't like.
Let's be honest, he's a prick, isn't he? Let's not put it I'll put it as bluntly as I can. Guys,
I'm not too upset that I won't be watching that, but I'll make sure I'm home in time to watch Bentancur because that's the next game. And I'll be home in time
Uruguay, South Korea. Hopefully that'll be a good game. We've obviously got. Do you think Son will be playing? Will he be fit enough to start that one? Yeah.
Yeah. These injuries here, right?
Yeah.
And so you saw Monier came on with the mask.
Yeah, he had the mask on.
Will do the same. Yeah. He's their best player. He's their world superstar. There's no way he's not playing that game.
Now, then we move on to Portugal, Ghana. Maybe Tottenham-bound Ronaldo playing against Ghana.
What? Don't even say that. Don't even put that into the ether. Like, are you kidding? Please, no. I do not want Ronaldo anywhere near Spurs. I'd love the Ghanaians to go and win that game somehow. We've got a lot of Ghanaian friends here. Yeah. And they're pumped for this game because it's been a while. They were telling me it's been a while since they were in a World Cup.
Have they got a chance, HG?
They've got a chance. I
mean, we've seen good chance.
Good chance. No, I think Portugal, they do have a very strong team. But, Portugal, even with the strong team they had, they tend to get draws in group games and sneak through. Yeah. So the Ghanaians will be thinking, okay, first game is probably a good time to get Portugal. But I'd like to see Ghana do it just because we've seen shocks already. Let's have another one.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it'd be good to see one of the African teams try and get through as well. But I've got to say, my son thinks that Ronaldo is the GOAT. My son loves Ronaldo. He's Team Ronaldo, and he's got a touch of his attitude when he plays football and that as well, mate. So
So
I'd
he
like to
refuses
see.
to come off the bench, is what you're telling me.
But yeah, he'd walk off. But what I'm saying is, if we got, it's not going to happen. It's all hypothetical. Newcastle, he'll go somewhere else. Newcastle's a good shout. Lisbon's a good shout. But if Spurs got him, if because none of this will ever happen, HG. But if he was willing to come for 6 months and accept the role he would have to fulfill at Spurs, which wouldn't be a starter, and he could help the team and help the club to achieve something maybe for 6 months, and my son can get a shirt with his name on and get to see him in a
You're
Spurs
talking
shirt,
about
I'd be happy.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, I know.
You're
It's all
talking about
hypothetical.
Ronaldo. Help the team? What?
Yeah.
The team
Yeah, I
helps
know.
him.
Yeah,
Like, see,
I
he
know.
doesn't want to sit on United's bench. He's not going to sit on ours. Like, again,
No.
we all know how good he can be.
Yeah.
Even now, we all know how good he is, right? Because if his head's there, he will be a very good player for someone. But like if Son was injured for the next 6 months,
Yeah,
then
possibly.
you could see Spurs fans thinking, okay, well, we'll do it and we'll swallow it and whatever.
Yeah.
But no, like
He's
as much as I'd rather still have Bergwijn, and I know
Yeah.
that Bergwijn a lot of Spurs fans hate. But
I liked Bergwijn. I like Bergwijn.
Yeah,
I
me
don't,
too.
if it's Ronaldo, Hill, or Lucas, I know who I'm choosing. But
that's true.
For me, but it's not going to happen. I think
It's not going to happen.
he knows
Chelsea,
where.
Newcastle,
He
something
knows
like
where. I
that.
think he pretty much knows where he's going. All this has happened. He doesn't just terminate his contract and that's it. Say, I've not got a club now. I think it's pretty much lined up where he's going. And then
you've got to give Ten Hag credit. I should say that because Ronaldo,
Yeah.
when they weren't in the Champions League, as soon as that was confirmed, he was making moves that he wanted to get out.
Yeah.
He tried to get out in the summer.
Yeah,
no
they
one
should let him
wanted
go.
Because of the money. Like no one was going to pay the money that United were, so they couldn't get rid of him, and so he was left in limbo. But tough luck, Ronaldo. If you don't want to play for a team that's not in the Champions League, then you put it in your contract to say that you can leave. And if that contract is not accepted by that team, well, you figure that out when the time comes. Yeah. But to just you sign a 2-year deal and you want out of it, basically because they're not in the Champions League and you feel like you should be, no. That in itself is reason not to have him.
Absolutely, mate. I mean, and then after that, we've got Brazil, Serbia. I'm really looking forward to this. Not because Richarlison's playing or because of the players, because my wife's going out with her friend, which means I can sit there in the living room with nobody around me and watch it in peace. But no, I think that'll be a good game, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, against Serbia, you never know what you're going to get, right? I mean, they've got very, very good players, but they're temperamental. Again, it's cliched stuff. I don't want to say it. They've got some really good. Mitrovic scores a huge amount of goals for Serbia. I mean, it's ridiculous, his record for Serbia.
Vlahovic.
Vlahovic will be there. They've got Jovic off the bench. I mean, they've got some really good strikers. It's, again, what team works best? They will look at that Brazil game and think, again, you want to play them when it maybe doesn't matter as much, which is the first game. But Brazil, they always tend to win their first game. So I do think Brazil will get through. But Serbia, it'll be like watching Canada tonight. Serbia will play really well, but lose.
Yeah. I've said the other day, I had a cheeky little look at Richarlison was 28-1 to be the top goal scorer. And he's been in good form scoring for Brazil, hasn't he, HG? So do you think he'll start tomorrow as the number 9? Or do you think the fact that he was out injured for a while for Spurs, they'll probably start him on the bench?
It's going to probably be similar to what Belgium did with Hazard. I think he'll start.
Yeah.
I mean, he may well be the first one taken off if goals aren't coming.
Yeah.
But to me, it's what works best for the team.
Yeah.
Brazil want to play a kind of aggressive football, and we know Richarlison is that player. He embodies it. Yeah. So Richarlison will be the main. He may not score loads. Maybe it'll be Neymar. But if Richarlison goes the whole tournament without having a shot and Brazil win it, no one will care, right?
No.
So I think Richarlison will start.
I'd like him to have. I've never been a massive Richarlison fan. I've not hyped him as much as everybody else has playing for Spurs because I don't think he's been as good as a lot of Spurs fans made him out to be. Yeah. But I do hope he has a good tournament. I hope he gets some games in him, and I hope he comes back to Spurs fit. and I hope we can use him more in his preferred positions the second half of the season. So I'm hoping that he does turn it on for Brazil. And, like Brazil are another team, I'd like to see him have a good tournament. To be fair, I'm not saying I want him to win it, but, they're a good, it's always a good atmosphere around when Brazil are playing.
I think we talked about this on Monday. Like, I love seeing the shocks,
Yeah.
right? But do I want to see England versus Qatar in the round of 16 or Spain versus Morocco in the how those games are going to end?
Yeah,
So at
exactly.
some point, I want the big teams against each other, right?
Absolutely.
I want Argentina versus France in the round of 16, or Argentina versus Denmark, or whatever the options can be. Because you do want to see big games between the best players with lots riding on it. So it is nice to watch these teams. I don't want to say minnows because they're not,
No.
but you don't expect them to do it more than once.
Yeah, it's
right?
not nice early on.
Do it again.
Yeah. It's nice early on, isn't it, to sort of have a little laugh and a joke. But when it gets to the business end, you want to see the big teams with the best players playing each other and memorable moments happen in those games. Like we talk about World Cups that we've watched from years ago and stuff like that. That's what you want to see, isn't it?
But it's weird. I'm already thinking, and I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. I'm already thinking, right, if England win their group, which...
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, yeah.
Right? If England win their group, then they're on that one side of the half, half of the draw, obviously. So it'll be the winners of Group D, which probably France. That's going to be a tough one. But you look at you look to see which group's second place teams will be in that half, which group's first place teams will be in that half. Because with the results that we've seen, maybe Argentina will drop down into that half, which we don't want. But if Argentina get to play France, then one of those is going to be out. Yeah. It's just, there's so much to think about and hope. But I don't want to see a quarterfinal where it's like America versus someone else not great.
Yeah, no,
right?
Because
England,
they just
that can't happen. But
I know what you're saying. But so so far, pretty much so good. I mean, I've not sat there and watched all of the crap 0-0 games. So what I've watched so far has been pretty good. Not too bad. I'm excited for tomorrow. And then obviously we go again into Friday, England playing again. What I did want to talk about briefly was Kane scan on his ankle today. Apparently it's okay. But I think even if there was a little something there, I think they'd be playing him, which really pisses me off. Because I think sometimes he needs saving from himself. But what do you make of the whole Kane ankle? Because I don't think, why would you have a scan if there's nothing wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe to check to see. I mean, there's definitely something there, right? Because Kane's ankles, we know, are his weak spot. They always have been because he's been injured. But I mean, it's not like they're made of glass. But they're just that's been the place where he gets injured. And some of the tackles that have happened to injure those have been horrific, right?
Yeah.
Like he's gone over on the ankle at speed. It's not great. So it is like, do you say we'll risk you against America, knowing full well that a win will put us through?
Yeah.
Or do you not play him against America and think we'll save him for Wales when the game might have more on it?
Yeah,
I do think that whatever happens, Kane is going to start. The question will be, what can we do? Like if it's clear that he can't do what he normally does, then it's a massive issue. But I don't. Kane has come back from ankle injuries after 3 or 4 days out before, and he's not seeing any real difference at all.
No.
It's almost like he's got magic elastic ankles by this point. But they'll want to check it out and just to see exactly what the damage is, because clearly there is some kind of damage, but whether it's enough to knock him out of a game, probably not.
No, well, because for me though as well, if you're going to be honest, Kane, we say about his ankle, but Kane doesn't really. He does it a bit, does it now and then, but he doesn't really press or harry down defenses anywhere near as much as he used to, does he, HG? And if you watched him play against Iran, I think he just sort of dropped. He played it as if it was he played that game at his own pace, really, didn't he? You know what I mean? Like everyone was running about and he just dropped into places and laid people in to score. So, he doesn't really play that type of sort of high intensity pressing and really giving defenders a hard time on the ball anymore, does he? So
No, and the Iran game was perfect for him because the whole game was basically played in that half. So it was like
Yeah,
a half, half court
yeah,
football, which suits him perfectly. The Americans will run and run and run.
yeah.
Okay, and so he's going to be probably on his own and quite a lot against Zimmerman and Ream, and he's clearly good enough. Even on one
Yeah,
leg, he's good enough to be better than them.
yeah,
But it's going to be a different type of game, and those runners are going to have to come from midfield at speed.
yeah,
So, like with Wilson being as fast as he is, and I'm assuming Wilson would be next up if Kane can't
yeah,
play. I guess Southgate might go with Rashford as the centre forward. But there's going to be a slight difference of things. Like if it's going to be Wilson, then we need to get higher up the pitch, and
yeah,
we'll be taking our chances against an American side that have pace, and they're not afraid to get at you. It's a massive game for the Americans. I know England, America. It's kind of like it's weird that England is now the little brother compared to America in lots of things.
yeah.
But as far as soccer's concerned,
No, we're
football is
still the big
concerned,
dogs.
like we're the ones that they want to take down more than anyone else, right? Like they play Mexico a lot, and that's a big game for them. But to play
Yeah,
the English, it's a massive deal, and so yeah, it's going to be a tough one. But I guess they, despite how pragmatic Southgate is, I don't think he's going to err on the side of caution and protect Kane. It'll be protect the team and
yeah,
maybe play a third centre back to see if that could help Kane. But yeah, consider we won 6-2. If he changes the side, his neck will be for it. That's for sure.
yeah. No, Adrian, I don't think he will. I think he'll pretty much stick with what he did in the first game. They've done a job for him. He's loyal. He likes that. He will stick with them. I believe.
Southgate only has something to lose if he changes, right? Because if he makes that change and England don't play well and they don't win the game, it's going to be on Southgate, right? And I know that. I think Southgate's going regardless of what happens at this World Cup, but I think that the smart decision is to stick with what you have because nobody sees America as this massive threat. Like it's not like we're playing France. It's not like we're playing a team that we know are really, really good. They're a team that can hurt us, but I just think the obvious thing to do is to back your own star players.
Yeah,
We've got really good attackers. We've got Bellingham, who, as far as I'm concerned, has given the performance of the tournament so far because he was just everywhere.
yeah.
Best midfielder at the tournament I've seen. So yeah, I don't think he's going to go 3-5-2. Depending on the result, we might see a change against Wales, but he would be foolish, I think, to switch it now.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. I think he'll stick with the same. I think if Kane's fit, I think you'll see the same starting 11. Hopefully, get the result, and then we go into Wales, make some changes. And like I said, that with those changes you can make against Wales really won't weaken the team too much. The only place that you lose a player that will weaken the team is if another forward comes in instead of Kane. I think if you bring a Grealish, a Foden, someone like that in, I think you're in certain ways adding to the team, but you're not really losing too much anywhere else. So
it all depends
we're
on what you want
in
to
good
do.
shape. Yeah.
If you want to play with a target man, then Kane for anyone is a big issue. But if you decide you want to play a false nine, you want to play a different kind of football, then you could probably lose Kane and it'd be okay. I mean, I still think Kane's captain for a reason.
Yeah,
he's the best
absolutely.
player that England have. Yeah, he's still the best player. You don't score the amount of goals he scored for England without being extremely good.
No.
I know we're going to finish because we're almost at an hour, but I just want to say this thing here. It would be amazing if England fans idolized Kane, but it would be amazing for England. Like that's the crazy thing. I can understand disliking a player because he plays for your rivals at club level, right? I can understand that, but I don't understand. Surely they genuinely must hate Kane. They have this kind of it doesn't matter what he does. He could score a hat trick in every game, and they would still be like, I still don't want him to do well. I don't like him, which is mad. I genuinely we talk about our dislike for Saka, and in fact, he got 2 goals in the first game for England. I don't care. He's not playing for Arsenal. No. I want him to do well. When a player leaves Arsenal, then I think they're all right again. It's just playing for that club that I don't like. And so, I think that the hatred of Kane is a very personal thing. It's not because he plays for Spurs. I don't believe that. I think it's because they just whatever image he has, whether it's being clean cut, father of 3, model professional. I think that's what annoys them. And they think, well, he dives on the pitch and he backs into people and he cheats and he only gets decisions because he's England captain and all that nonsense that isn't based in reality, but that's where they are. So it doesn't matter now. Like they are so anti-Kane that there is no way. If England fans really got behind the side, who knows what could happen? But when everyone is sitting there going, well, if Kane's not scoring, why do we have him? Like we scored 6. And he didn't score. It's like the French team that won the World Cup without the striker scoring. I don't care if Kane scores 4 or if he scores none. I care that England win, and that should be every England fan's position.
But HG, I think that's just a modern. That's what happens in football a lot now. These narratives get built up on the socials. You get morons who literally just believe what they read and think, oh, I'll have some of that. I'll get involved in that, and it just spirals and snowballs. I just think that's part of modern. And not a very good part of it, to be fair. I'm not a massive fan of a lot of the stuff in modern day football. And I think it just spirals. And like you said, exactly what you said is right. People have just, they've decided there's something they dislike about him and they just don't care and they just don't like him. And it's like, and it gets to a point where they just like slagging him off rather than getting behind him. And there's other players that have that treatment as well.
And it makes no sense.
No.
Like, I mean, even at club level, if there's a player you don't like or you don't think is any good, what do you get from slagging them off repeatedly?
Yeah.
Like, to say that, well, I was right, and I'm sorry, like, no matter what happens with Harry Kane's career, they were wrong.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what happens. He scored over 50 goals for England. There's a very good chance he could become England's record goal scorer at this very tournament.
Yeah.
So you would hope that people would want that. It's not going to change his career. It's personal, and there's no reason for anything in football to be personal. Like,
but hey,
certainly when what has he done wrong? Nothing.
Yeah.
Apart from being very good, he's not. It's weird to think that someone like Gascoigne or George Best or all those players that were loved despite being extremely questionable off the pitch. If he was more like that, people would be okay with it.
Yeah,
that to me is the crazy thing. It's this English thing of not liking machines. Like like for the English people who are quite stiff upper lip and all that business. Like we want our footballers to be fun, to be representative of I don't want to say the
bloke in the pub.
Those people who
the bloke.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
The pub.
Yeah, and it's it's hard to get your head around. I mean, we idolise Kane for 40 years, and and other people can't see how good he is. But won't get into this now. But on a slight tangent, there's obviously another person who is at Tottenham Hotspur who works and who sort of runs the club. And I've not got a side in all this, and I don't know if you've got too much of a side. But there's people who have got sides and agendas, and it's the same there, isn't it? It doesn't matter what they do, whatever's good, there's always going to be that hate, and some of that's personal, gets personal for no apparent reason, doesn't it? I just think it's part of
everybody has some kind of bias, right? Like if there's a football player that I like, obviously, if it's maybe a 50-50 call, I might err on the side that I want to be true, right?
Yeah.
But nobody is all good or all bad.
Yeah.
And so to have your agenda be this person is evil or this person is incredible, neither can be true, right?
No.
Everybody is somewhat grey.
Yeah, and absolutely.
That's what I hate. The idea that I love Messi. Like Ronaldo is everything that's wrong with football, and Messi is everything that's good. Messi is not everything that's good, right? Like Messi is taking money from Saudi Arabia to try and help them get the World Cup in, I think, 2030. Like there's not a lot great about that. You can admire them as footballers. You can say like they're good at this, but to make it so personal, I will never understand it. If that's an age thing, then sue me. But I just won't understand it.
Well, for me, the more goals he scores for Spurs and the more he scores for England, because he'll break the goal scoring record there. He'll break our goal scoring record for Spurs. Just gives them all a nice big juicy shit burger to eat, HG, and I'll fucking love it. So, and on that note, I'd like to. Obviously, we've had a lot of people in the comments again tonight. We've had decent viewing figures, so thanks very much for joining in. We'll have a gang back on Friday night. I won't be there Friday. think HG, I think are you in it? But obviously, as we say, keep an eye on the socials. Tell people about us. Keep getting involved in the chat, and we'll keep doing this while the World Cup's on. And obviously, just keep going. And hopefully, if there's little bits about Spurs players you want to drop in the comments, do it. You got anything to say, HG?
One last thing, right? We talked before the tournament started about players who could do a job for Spurs, who might be someone that, and we talked about a few players in the chat today. I don't think he's maybe Spurs' level, but I do want to say that the Canadian number 2 tonight, Johnston, I think was his name. First half especially, he is too good for MLS. So I would be very, very surprised if he doesn't get a move to Europe in January. May not be to the Premier League, but I think he's certainly good enough. I was super impressed. Most of the Canadian players, because they were brave on the ball and they wanted to go forward and they trusted their technique, which you don't often see. So of all the players that I've seen in the first, we've had 12 games so far, of the people that I don't know too much about, he stood out more than anyone else.
And maybe, HG, we say to the people watching, maybe before we go back into the season when the World Cup ends, maybe if people get players that they've seen that they think would fit in well at Spurs, and we'll do a show where we, we'll get some messages in on the socials or come on here and we'll discuss them players and we'll do that. So yeah, let's keep an eye out and let's keep these shows going. Thanks for your views.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, it's coming home.
It's not coming home.